Good morning. It is my pleasure to welcome everyone to the 19th annual class of 1953 lectureship. This lectureship series was established by members of the class of 1953 to commemorate their 50th reunion and leave a legacy that would inspire students for years to come. Previous speakers in the lectureship series include entertainer Tommy Smothers, broadcast journalist and their teacher, Roger Mudd, astrophysicist Melissa Rice, Olympic gold medalist Dave Waddle, and government official Michael Thurmond. We appreciate the generosity and vision of the members of the class of 1953, their love for Darlington, and interest in providing you all, our students, exposure to exciting speakers is a great example for us all. If we could give the class of 1953 a round of applause, that would be grateful. And we are especially fortunate today to be joined by one of the members of the class of 1953, and really the man who has led this project for those 20 years. And please join me in giving a special welcome to John Hine, who's here with us today. John wants you to pay special attention to his Georgia Tech tie as well. So, I'd also like to introduce a member of the Board of Trustees, Gretchen Corbin. Ms. Corbin was instrumental in helping us secure today's speaker, and if you understand how higher education in the state of Georgia works, she is a key player in making possible all of the opportunities that you all have within the university system. So Gretchen, thank you as always for all that you do. We have lots of members of the Georgia Tech and Darlington community who are here with us today, and really excited for you all to be here with us. Thank you for joining us, and of course, students and faculty, as always, it's a pleasure to be with you this morning. Today, I'm honored to introduce this year's speaker. Ángel Cabrera serves as the 12th president of the Georgia Institute of Technology. One of America's leading research institutes, Georgia Tech serves more than 45,000 students through top-ranked graduate and undergraduate programs ranging from engineering and science to business, computing, design, and liberal arts. The university receives nearly $1.3 billion a year in annual research awards. Dr. Cabrera came to Georgia Tech on September 1st, 2019, after serving for 7 years as president of George Mason University in Virginia. During his presidency, George Mason joined the top tier of research universities in the Carnegie classification and was the fastest growing institution in the state of Virginia. Before leading George Mason, Cabrera was president of the Thunderbird School of Global Management, now part of Arizona State University, and dean of IE Business School in Madrid, Spain. It's important to pause for a moment and realize the gravity and the importance of when Dr. Cabrera became the president of Georgia Tech when we think about COVID-19 and the global pandemic and the amazing work that he and his team have done in those challenging times. It was not easy, but we are very fortunate in the state of Georgia that he came to Georgia Tech when he did to lead Georgia Tech through that challenging period of time that we've all faced in different ways. Other things of interest about Dr. Cabrera is the co-founder of the University Global Coalition, a global network of universities working in partnership with the United Nations in support of sustainable development goals. He has been named a Young Global Leader by the World Economic Forum, a Star of Europe by Bloomberg Businessweek, and a Henry Crown Fellow by the Aspen Institute. Cabrera earned his MS and PhD in psychology and cognitive science from Georgia Tech, which he attended as a Fulbright Scholar, He holds a bachelor's and a master's in computer and electrical engineering from the Universidad Politécnica de Madrid, and his academic publications have been cited thousands of times, and he has been featured or quoted in leading media around the world. If you are a native of Spain, will you please stand up? Where are our students from Spain? Don't be shy. You all and everyone will be interested to know that Dr. Cabrera is the first native of Spain to serve as a president of an American university. You guys can clap for him if you want. And finally, I would add this. You can feel his positive energy and his love for Georgia Tech through his very impressive social media presence. I encourage you to follow him in that world and encourage you to join me in giving President Cabrera a warm Darlington welcome.
What an honor! What an honor to be here. Thank you so much for this very, very kind invitation. I'll tell you, I understand that in addition to our students from Spain, many of you are taking Spanish. Good. Vamos a hacer el resto de este discurso en español para ver qué tal, ¿vale? No sé. Okay, back to English. That was good. That was good, though. That was good. Somebody at least responded. That was awesome. Before I share a little bit about my own journey and maybe share a few things that might be of interest to you, I want to point out the folks who are on this front rows and maybe encourage all students to reflect on who these people are and what they do here. One of the most interesting aspects of American culture, and it's a deep-rooted culture, is this expectation that things don't just happen by themselves. That there is an expectation that as you grow up and as you start making a path for yourself, the expectation is that you will contribute to building a better community than what you found. So I know you come to class and you probably take all this for granted. You happen to go to school in one of the most beautiful places I've ever visited. And this didn't just happen out of nowhere. It is because folks like these who are pretty darn busy with their lives and they find the time to serve on the board, to give money, to give advice, to make sure that by the time they're long gone, there's an even better school here for new generations of kids. So I just want you to reflect on that. It's really one of the most powerful aspects of this nation and one of the things that makes the United States what it is. I'll point out just there are several of them who are alums of the school and alums of Georgia Tech, and I appreciate what they do constantly to support our school. But I'll also point out one of my own board members, Larry May, a parent, proud parent, who also serves on the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia. So this is a collection of 26 universities, about 1/3 students, different universities all throughout the states with different issues, different problems, and there's a very small group of Georgia citizens who spend their time with no expectation of getting paid, spend their time to try to make sure our universities do the best they can to make sure we provide opportunity to young people like you. So anyway, just reflect on that. If you forget everything else I'm going to share about my life, that's the part that you shouldn't forget about. That there's an expectation very soon you'll be moving up to the front row, just saying, when your life starts doing well. I'm going to be a little bit controversial, though. That's why I wanted to recognize the people in the front row, because they may not like what comes after, so I need to compensate. So I'm going to give you some advice that may not be that common. Here's what you'll normally hear from grown-ups, and when you graduate, this is likely what you'll hear. Follow your passion. You've heard that before, right? as you choose where to go to school, as you choose where to follow your passion, do whatever you can to get into the best possible school you can get to. Maybe Georgia Tech. Major in computer science. Used to be plastics, now it's computer science. Try not to be too weird. And have clear goals and plans as to what you want to do in your life. So now some people is like, well, what's wrong with any of that? Well, it's not wrong, but I'll give you a different approach that hopefully may help you make your own decisions going forward. So Georgia Tech, as you've heard, is a pretty amazing institution. It's one of the best research universities in the world. Georgia Tech right now is the number one research university in the country among those that don't have a medical school. We just surpassed MIT in research grants. We're very, very proud of the work our faculty do. We recruit students, best students in the state, best students from around the country, even international students. We bring the best faculty in the world. We give them all the equipment they need to have breakthroughs. It's a pretty remarkable place. The likelihood that a kid from Spain, from Madrid, would one day end up running this place, if you do the probability analysis of that, the probability tends to 0. It's a very, very unlikely event. And one that every day I get up, I go to work, I pinch myself that I have this amazing opportunity. But don't think that was sort of in any way predetermined. That was the result of wonderful, magical coincidences throughout my life, which didn't have much to do with having a clear plan or following my passion or doing all those, or studying, majoring in computer science, or trying not to be too weird. In fact, when I'm asked about my plans, my own career, I could go out and tell you, listen, I had a perfect plan growing up. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what had to be done, because otherwise, how do you explain that someone like me would have the job that I have? Except that if I told you that, I would be lying, and I would be making it up. Nothing like that happened. So let me tell you a little bit about me, and then hopefully I will be able to draw some pieces of advice that may be helpful for some of you. So I grew up in Madrid, in the great city of Madrid, best soccer in the world. I don't know if some of the Spanish kids here are from Barcelona. If they tell you otherwise, it's not true. Best soccer in the world is in the great city of Madrid. When I was growing up, neither of my parents went to college. And not because they didn't have the capacity. They were both very, very smart people, but because the opportunities weren't offered to them when they were growing up. Spain was in the middle of a dictatorship of Franco. The dictators don't like to invest too much in education. They don't like to have smart citizens. So my parents didn't have a chance to go to college. In my generation, we did. Spain had invested in great universities. I got to go to these universities. I remember spending my summers in a little town in the mountains in Extremadura, one of the most poor parts of the country, and spending the summers running around. And I was very, very proud of my granddad, because my granddad had been the teacher in that school. And every time I got into trouble, all I had to know, I had been given the free pass. If you get into trouble, you just tell people who your granddad is. And all I had to say is I'm the grandson of Don Cesario, and that would get me out of trouble consistently. So I grew up thinking, oh my gosh, being a teacher is a pretty amazing thing. It's the most important thing you can do in the world. So I always looked up to saying, when I grow up, that's what I want to do. So thanks to the efforts of my parents, I ended up going to a great university in Spain. It was a great university, but it's a university none of you have ever heard of. So if you think, this is one thing, if you're too obsessed about where it is you're going to go to college, and I think when you're getting into the college visits and into the decisions and the application process and writing your essays, and it gets a little bit stressful, and you may think that is the end of the world. Oh my gosh, what if I don't get into Georgia Tech? What if I don't get into UJ? That might be a good thing, by the way. No, just kidding, just kidding, just kidding, just kidding, just kidding. I'll tell you, I went to a school most of you have never heard of. I'm president of Georgia Tech. I did okay. So do not obsess with where you're going to go to college. What you need to be worried about is once you get there, whatever college you end up choosing, because it's one that excites you, one that fits you, one that you think will be a fun place to be, make sure you take advantage of every opportunity that is given to you. So that's what I did. I went to this school. I did very well. I got very good grades. And I was given the opportunity to come to the U.S. to study, thanks to a scholarship called the Fulbright Scholarship, which is a program initiated by the United States in partnership with other countries to make sure that people travel and study in other countries, and with the hope that when we spend time with one another, maybe we will contribute to building a more peaceful world. So I was lucky enough to get one of those. I land at Georgia Tech. Now, the reason why I landed at Georgia Tech is because even though I had majored in computer engineering, which is a smart thing to do, there are tons of jobs in computer engineering, I had an identity crisis on the way to my doctorate, and I decided, to everybody's surprise, I wanted to do psychology. Have you lost your mind? And I said, I really want to study psychology. So I applied to many great programs in psychology. Everybody turned me down. They said, go do engineering. Don't you want to come here but study engineering? No, I want to do psychology. So Georgia Tech was the only place in the country that would let an engineer study psychology. That's why I ended up at Georgia Tech. So I landed at Georgia Tech in the early 90s. My English was terrible. I read well, because I read many articles in English. I wrote decently, but I could not order a chili dog in the Varsity on North Avenue. To this day, I'm still scarred by that experience. And by the way, my obsession at the time was to fit in. I was the foreign student. I was the guy with a funny accent, the funny name. I still have my nickname when I go to Starbucks. What's your name? I would say Alex, because I don't want to get into Angel. Angel, are you kidding me? And all that. So my obsession, like many of you, is like I want to fit in, right? Most of you have gone through situations like that. Whatever makes you different, and you sometimes wish it didn't make you different. I'm Hispanic, or I'm from Spain. I'm black. I'm Asian. I'm too tall. I'm short. I'm whatever it is that makes you different. Sometimes you're like, gosh, I wish I didn't have to deal with that. Well, as it turns out, it is not what makes you the same. It is what makes you different that will give you opportunities throughout your career and your life. It is what makes you different and unique. So years later, after I graduated from Georgia Tech and I returned to Spain, well, a couple of details in between. While I was at Georgia Tech, I fell in love and married a classmate of mine. Beth Fraser at the time, from Florence, Alabama. She never thought she was going to leave the Southeast, let alone the U.S., and she married a Spaniard and followed him to Spain. We ended up moving to Madrid. Our kids were born in Madrid. She went from not speaking a word of Spanish to becoming a professor at a Spanish university and becoming the first American to earn tenure at that university, and even earning an award to the best teacher. But the first time she taught a class, she would call me, because I was traveling for business, she would call me in tears to tell me how rude Spanish students were. And I asked, why are they so rude? It's like, well, they laugh in my face. It's like, well, you must have said something funny. It's like, no, I'm teaching class. I'm like, what did you say? She would tell me what she had said in Spanish. I started laughing very hard. That did not help. But guess what? It was the fact that she was the American professor in Spain that opened great doors for her. It was the fact that I had had an international exposure by getting my PhD in the United States that make me different when I was in Spain. It is thanks to that that I became a dean at a very early age, and that started my career in administration. Things that at the time you think are annoyances that are making your life harder, the reality is it's not about fitting in is about standing out. It is what makes you unique and different that will open doors that you don't even imagine today. So after I graduated from Georgia Tech, and I said we moved to Spain, you have to start making career decisions. I mean, some of us who are in academia because we fear, I guess, moving to the real world, and we're trying to extend our years in school as much as we can. So you get a PhD, and then if you can, you become a faculty member. Try to be in school as long as you can. But at some point in time, reality hits you. You have to make decisions. This is when normally you would hear the follow your passion, right? Have you heard that before? You'll hear that many times. Follow your passion. Which is wonderful. It's very inspiring. Follow your passion. Problem is, many of us is like, what is my passion? I have no idea what my passion is. I haven't found my passion. I don't wake up in the morning thinking, this is what I want to do. I want to do spinal cord surgery. That's my passion. We have no idea what our passion is. So it's not a very useful advice. Well, then if you're not following that advice, then what it is that you do instead? Well, my advice, which may be a little bit more practical, is that instead of following that passion, that you experiment with things, that you try to find things that may be appealing to you, things where you can be good, where you can find a sense of meaning and purpose, and when you do find that, that thing may become your passion. But experiment. Take classes and things that you may not know about, may not even imagine that you're ever interested in. Just experiment. Open up. Take classes. Sign up for clubs. Sign up for activities. There's one thing that you will find in college. You'll find a whole world of activities that you can sign up for. And that's my advice to you. So when I go back, again, I can tell you, and this is something that grown-ups sometimes were tempted to do. I can go back and give you a perfectly rational plan on how I managed this super smart plan to become Georgia Tech's president. And I can tell you that story today. I can tell you how I knew that it was important to balance my engineering background with the social sciences and understanding of human behavior so I can manipulate people with my psychology. And how it was important then that I taught in a business school and that I learned the tools of business. And I can tell you a whole story of how I perfectly planned this whole thing, and I would be lying. I had absolutely no idea. I was as confused as everybody is when I graduated from Georgia Tech. And what I did is what I could, is you have a set of opportunities in front of you. I look for the opportunity that would allow me, would be a stretch goal. I like to learn, I like to test myself. Something that appeared to be fun, that would help me work with people that I enjoyed spending time with. And doing something that I felt I was making some decent, reasonable contribution. The rest is history. I could have never in my life imagined where my life would end. The other piece is that through your career, and some of you may have already had your ups and downs. Some of you are still young enough that you may not have had to face the downs of life, but you will. And the reality is none of our lives would be where they are today if it hadn't been because we deal with pain, we deal with failure, And it is in dealing with those moments, those difficult moments of failure, of loss, of pain, that we become who we are. So be ready for that. And I know that some of the students who show up at Georgia Tech have a hard time for this, because I mean, it is very competitive to get into Georgia Tech, and many of the students that arrive to us have never dealt with failure. They've done great. The grades are perfect. Their activities, everything they've done in life has been great. And all of a sudden you find yourself surrounded by other very successful, very smart people, and sometimes you fail a class, or you get a bad grade, or you get an unexpected result, or you deal with some. That is part of life. That is part of life. And it is about how you deal with those failures, how you build yourself up, that will eventually make you who you are. So that's my other not very inspiring recommendation for you, which is fail and deal with it, because you will be a better person as a result of that. So I am really honored to be here. I'm in a way, as I mentioned, but any of our careers have been unpredictable. But that's what my hope is, the message is for you. That when you look forward, you don't panic if you feel like you don't have everything figured out. You don't know where you might want to go to school. You don't know what you want to major in. You don't know what this is. I don't have a passion. Don't worry. If you do, congratulations. You're in the lucky minority of people who know exactly what they want their life to look like. If you were like I was, just don't worry. Just do what you can with what you have in front of you. Push yourself to do better. Experiment, look for different paths, test yourself, and have fun. Life is just absolutely a wonderful journey. So I'll leave you with that thought. I want to bring again your thoughts to, as you do that, do not forget exactly what brought you here. And don't forget that expectation, no matter even those of you who came to this wonderful school from other countries. I hope this is a part of the American culture you take away with you when you go home. Don't forget that everything around us, every aspect of our community is built because of people take time and resources out of their lives to make things better for others. Congratulations on being a part of this amazing school, and thank you so much. What an honor to be part of this today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Cabrera, for being with us today and being a part of this lecture series. Mr. Bell told you a bit about the history of this lectureship, and I've been very fortunate to have worked with the members of the class of 1953 since Mr. John Hine and the late Mr. Mike Luxembourg helped to found this program. It's been a marvelous experience to see the variety of people who have spoken at Darlington. The founders of the class of 1953 followed their passion for Darlington. They came back for their 50th reunion and decided this is what they wanted as their gift to the school. They followed their passion, as Dr. Cabrera said, and we will always be grateful to them. Whether it's been a rocket scientist or a gold medalist or military leader, we have really been fortunate to have had such a wonderful group of people. Dr. Cabrera now joins that long line of distinguished speakers, and his name will be engraved on the plaque that hangs in Wilcox Hall right outside of Mr. Bell's office. So again, we want to thank him for being here, And now Ms. Vicki Vincent, who is our Director of Alumni Relations, has a little gift for him.
Dr. Cabrera, thank you so much for being here today. And I just want to let everyone know that the Class of 53 Lectureship will be making a gift to the Georgia Tech Foundation in your honor for your presence today. So thank you so much.
Seniors, lead us out.